Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh, I'm ready. We're ready. I thought you'd gavel it to order first, but I didn't know. I think the new generation of chairs might do different than some of us old guard did.
Welcome, everybody. I will call this meeting to order of the Health and Human Services Finance and Policy Committee. Today's date is Monday, March 21st, 2022. Welcome, everyone. And to start us off today, Senator Bakk has Senate File 2145, and all I can say is twice in one session you're in HHS, so that's a good deal. Mr. Chair. So welcome.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Abler?
I'll move the bill.
Okay. Thank you. Senator Abler moves 2145 to be before us, so go ahead, Senator Bakk.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm on a short list of people that come to this committee and don't ask for money also. Mr. Chairman, Senate File 2145 is, and I've always liked bills that are constituent-driven, that help out constituents back in your district, and this would help a lot of constituents, especially those of us that live in resort area of the state. The situation, Mr. Chairman, is the mom and pa resorts who have standalone cabins want an opportunity to offer the same kind of amenities that the VRBO businesses are. The whole VRBO, vacation rental business, has really exploded in popularity, and the resort areas have struggled some with whether they need to be licensed and how to handle the issue of the direct competition with the resort community. And one of the things that's come up, and it was brought to me by the Fredrickson family who own Gunflint Lodge up on the Gunflint Trail, and if you've never been there, you really should experience it. It's a wonderful resort. But they brought to me an issue that up on the North Shore, there's all these VRBOs, and they all have, or many of them, have hot tubs. And when I first started to look into this with Senate Council, the department said, well, yeah, they have hot tubs, but the guests can't use them. Okay. We all know that's probably a bit unrealistic. And so I had my office do a little search on Google search on VRBOs that are advertising online, and page after page after page where they list their price, one of the amenities they list is a hot tub. So I think the reality is they are being used, and it might be as simple as just putting up a sign, use at your own risk, but the requirements to meet the department requirements of a commercial hot tub, which is what this is considered, are the same as that for a Holiday Inn or a Hyatt or a Hilton. And it's just unrealistic to think that a little standalone cabin with one family in it that out on the deck have to meet the same requirements as a pool in one of our big hotels. So, Mr. Chairman, want to introduce Mindy Fredrickson, who her and her husband own Gunflint Lodge up on the North Shore. Want to thank them for making the drive down here. If you think Grand Marais is a long ways away, they're like 45 miles from Grand Marais. So it's hard to get much further from St. Paul than where they're at up in Cook County. So I want to thank them for taking the time. I've told constituents if it's important, you should show up. And I want to thank them for doing that. So, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Bakk, and welcome to our committee, Ms. Fredrickson. And if you just please identify yourself for the audio record and can proceed with your testimony, or tell us what you would like to hear about the hot tubs.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Senators.
And I'm going to have you move up or get that mic right in front of you and become quite friendly with it, because we want to hear what you got to say.
Okay, can you hear me now?
You're doing well.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Senator Bakk, for inviting me here and for listening to us. Like Senator Bakk said, my husband, John, and I own Gunflint Lodge up on the Gunflint Trail in Cook County. And we do have, we've got 24 cabins that are open year-round. We do some outfitting business and other types of business up in Cook County, which is, entirely a tourism-based economy in our county. And we do have a few cabins that do have some hot tubs that meet the current requirements, but we certainly would like to add some more of those. That's definitely the cabins we have that do have hot tubs. They have much higher occupancy throughout the year than the cabins that don't have hot tubs. They get higher rates. It's definitely something that guests ask for and want to have. And, you know, as Senator Bakk implied, over the years, we've seen more and more competition coming from the short-term vacation rentals, where people do have their cabins available, private cabins with hot tubs, and those things are certainly, we're competing against those as our business as well. Because we do see the value of the hot tubs to our guests and as a part of our business and a need to be, you know, to stay relevant and competitive as a business. We have looked into adding hot tubs to the other cabins, and we found that, you know, to meet all of the requirements of having a commercial pool at our resort, it would be, you know, upwards of over $60,000 to put in a hot tub. And that is, you know, that's for, you know, we're looking at hot tubs that would seat, you know, 6 people, be dedicated to an individual cabin. They wouldn't be in a public area. They wouldn't be accessible by anybody that was staying in a different area. You know, it's the same kind of hot tub that you may have in your home. You know, those are obviously readily available throughout Minnesota, obviously used safely in people's homes and residences throughout Minnesota and throughout the rest of the country. But those aren't things that are available for us to put in for guests to use when they're on vacation. So we just want to be able to be on a level playing field and compete with the short-term rentals out there. And also, those same kinds of restrictions are not necessarily placed on other small resorts in other states as well. So, you know, if you were going to Wisconsin or another state, Montana, to vacation, you may be able to use a hot tub. But in Minnesota, that's just not available to our guests. So we would just ask that that would be something that could be considered by the senators to allow us to bring, you know, the use of hot tubs available to the guests here. I know that that's an exception that has been made through legislation for the houseboats. And as far as we're aware, there haven't been any kinds of accidents or injuries or anything of that nature. No, you know, we're not talking about, you know, spreading disease, because these are unique or individual units and cabins. So, you know, we think that it's very safe, it's very doable, it's very usable, and would be able to help us as small business people compete with other businesses, larger hotels, resorts, and short-term vacation rentals. And I'd be glad to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions, comments for either Senator Bakk or our testifier? Senator Abler.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator Bakk, and thanks for coming down. It's so nice to have, you know, people in person and hear you come all this way. So you probably are close to the longest traveled person for the last year. Nobody came in person, so this is like so nice.
We're just glad to be back in the Capitol.
Yeah, but Mr. Chair and Senator Bakk, I just can't imagine why we don't do this already. We're concerned with public health and all that, but some things just don't make sense, and they never did. So it's funny we have to chip away at these little arcane things. And so I hope this particular project sails through the legislature and helps you to continue to serve people who want to go up and enjoy your great part of the state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Senator Eaton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I hate to be a stick in the mud, but there's a public health issue here, and it's called Pseudomonas Folliculitis, and it's pretty nasty skin rash that people get from bacteria that builds up in hot tubs. And when people share them, it's pretty common. And not to mention staff and other public health issues that, if there was some maybe some shortened version of the requirements that, for something like this, it would be different, but this bill, as far as I understand it, would eliminate all requirements, and so I have some real serious public health concerns.
Senator Bakk or Ms. Fredrickson have any additional information on that comment or question?
Well, let me just say, Mr. Chairman, when my sons were young, I added onto my house and built a sauna and added a hot tub back in 1991. And that house turned out to be the place where all their friends wanted to come. And and there's still a hot tub in there, and there's never been any kind of an incident. And believe me, I'm talking about a lot of kids. Now I've got 8 grandchildren, and I've got great pictures of the 8 of them in there all at the same time. I just think families that can't afford to have a hot tub, but maybe do a week vacation somewhere, that those kids should be able to have that kind of opportunity available to them. And there's been no health issues around the one that I have, and I've been awful close to it.
Thank you. A question for Ms. Fredrickson. Does this water get changed out between renters, or is it just, I know there's chemicals and different things you do to keep everything in balance. What normally takes place?
So we have 3 hot tubs that do meet the current state requirements. We have them regularly water tested. We actually have a certified pool operator on our staff. One of our maintenance staff is able to do that. So we do water testing on a regular basis to meet the state requirements. We also, obviously are testing between guest stays, pH balances, chemical balances, temperatures, all of those types of things. So those are things that we do, and certainly if the department felt that there was, as suggested, maybe an abbreviated list of things that would be required, like I said, the $60,000 estimate that we got to put in an individual pool has a lot to do with, there's engineering requirements, you have to have an engineering study done, you have to have it engineering tested afterwards. We're in Cook County, we're, as mentioned, six hours away from the Twin Cities, so there's nobody in our area that is even, licensed or qualified to do those types of things. So it just makes it very cost prohibitive. Certainly we would be amenable to, requirements about checking water quality, treating things like that on a regular basis. I think to Senator Bak's point, we also have a hot tub in our private home. My husband checks the water quality, does the chemicals, the chlorine treatment, all of that stuff, on a regular basis, and it really isn't problematic, and we've never had a problem with our personal hot tub either, nor have we had any problems with the 3 hot tubs that we have at the resort. But of course we want to be safe. Of course we don't want to cause any kind of illness or anything like that with our guests. But we just think that there's probably some place that we could land where it's possible to offer that kind of benefit to our guests without going through a full commercial pool situation.
Okay, thank you. Senator Wickland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was wondering if either Senator Bakk or the lodge owner, whether resorts, do you fall under a different type of consideration in terms of health and safety inspections and Department of Health requirements than short-term rentals right now? I guess I was wondering if you are held to different standards in terms of like the inspections of pools or hot tubs.
Ms. Fredrickson or Senator Bakk?
Well, just because I get a lot of local newspapers across my multiple counties that I represent, some counties require the short-term rentals to be licensed with the county Department of Health, and some I'm sure do not. And it's really kind of it's a growing industry, and imagine we're gonna learn more about what other requirements are necessary. But, I mean, I see up in my district, I see what used to be cabins, now people are building cabins with 10 bedrooms. And they're not doing it because their family's that big. They're building it because they want to be able to rent to large groups of people. And that's the VRBO market that the small mom and pop resorts are trying to compete in. I remember when there was the Department of Revenue came out and said these VRBOs that are being, short-term rentals that are being rented more than half of the year need to be classified commercial property because they're income producing. I got an email from an individual from Wisconsin who had one up in the town of Tofty in my district, and he said, well, you know, this isn't, these things don't make a lot of money. We're making just enough money that we're able to build 2 more. So he didn't make the argument very well for the fact that they weren't income producing properties. If you can, if the rentals pay the debt service, then it's an income producing property. And it's just, it's just unfair competition. This is a small little amenity that resorts want to be able to offer that the whole short-term rental business can. And it's just $60,000 to put a hot tub on a deck? Really? I mean, I've got a friend on Lake Vermilion that just put one out on their patio, and I think all in, all done, it was about $20,000, and he had to run electricity out of his panel out there, and he put in a very, very nice system. But to say that they should cost, the same hot tub should cost 3 times as much for a single-family cabin at a resort just seems unreasonable.
So if
Ms.
I could
Fredrickson.
echo on, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, to echo on Senator Bak's point, in Cook County, which is almost entirely tourism-based as far as our economy goes, there are actually more pillows, more beds owned in VRBO or short-term rentals than there are in resorts, hotels, and, you know, licensed businesses, commercial businesses. So it is very big business that we're competing against. I believe in Cook County, and I believe in Cook County, they are supposed to be inspected. I don't know if that's the case statewide, but I believe in Cook County, they are supposed to be inspected. But again, like Senator Bakk said, you know, maybe they're supposed to put up a sign that said that the hot tub isn't available for use, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's not being advertised and used. And I would say, you know, for the 3 that we do have on our property, they are commercial pools. So I have a sign, I have a deck about the size of this table with a hot tub on it, and I have a sign that is, you know, 10 feet wide. It covers the whole wall that says things like, you know, no running, no diving, no whatever, right? It complies with state statute. It's the same sign that you will find in a Holiday Inn that has a pool that seats, you know, 100 people.
Okay, thank you. Senator Wickland, anything further?
Yeah, just, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wondered if, I know the Department of Health is on our call, did they have anyone available who could just comment on whether, on the differences between different types of settings and what the guidelines are in terms of, you know, making sure the equipment is safe and water quality is safe? And would they have any comment about, you know, short-term rentals versus the resorts versus hotels on the different situations?
Okay, we have with us on the screen here with Zoom, Ms. Wheeler or Mr. Diaz. Sorry about that. If somebody, I see Ms. Wheeler got off mute, she must be going to join us.
Yeah, hi, I'm Angie Wheeler.
Oh, we're losing your audio. You started out. You want to try it again? There you go.
Maybe if I turn my video off, that might help with my bandwidth, so I'll turn the video off. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Senators, and thank you for bringing this important issue forward. It's a great opportunity to make sure the public is safe. The Minnesota Pool Code is in place to ensure safe operation, both infection control and life safety perspective. And if these pools are located,
You know what, Ms. Wheeler, you're fading in and out quite a lot. So we're only hearing about a third of what you have to say.
so let's try Stephen Diaz then, if my audio is not working right.
Mr. Diaz, are you able to join us?
I am. Can you see me and hear me?
We can hear you. Yep, go ahead.
Excellent. Stephen Diaz, for the record, my name is Stephen Diaz. I'm the Assistant Division Director for the Environmental Health Division. And can I just have somebody restate the question for me? Is it a question on whether VRBO and short-term rentals are licensed as well, or?
Sure, we can do that. Senator Wickland?
Yeah, my question was just, was more about just the different settings in short-term rentals, resorts, hotels. You know, are there guidelines that cover all, or are there different guidelines that cover each of these settings in terms of public safety and, you know, public health requirements for pools and hot tubs, I guess hot tubs specifically?
Mr. Diaz?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Senator Wickland. So we do have kind of a baseline standard across the board for pools, or specifically hot tubs, for any licensed facility, hotels, motels, resorts, as well as VRBO properties that are licensed by the Department of Health. There are some nuances around VRBO licensing, specifically the length of time, or the term of their rental. If they are renting out for periods of 1 week or longer, they do not meet our definitions of a licensing unit. And so it's really only for those VRBOs that are rented shorter than 1 week. They technically would have to be licensed and would have to comply with the pool code the same way that any other licensed resort would. Of course, there's also the additional issue of there's a lot of VRBOs out there that we just are not aware of at the health department in terms of which ones would fall into those designations or not. So we do have some licensed, but not, not nearly as many as probably meet our licensing definitions in the state.
Senator Wickland? Any further questions or comments?
I guess just my comment would be that I think that people going to a resort, and some of these other cases where they have hot tubs, I think they have an expectation that they're safe and that they're inspected. And I'm not saying that you wouldn't be striving for safety at all. And I totally understand the burden of, if a $60,000 cost that seems extremely high. But I just think people have an expectation when they go and they use something like that, that it is going to be overseen and functioning under some guidelines that include public health guidelines. So I'm just a little concerned about, totally removing that. But I don't know if there's any in between or any other incremental change that could be made. But that's kind of where I feel we're at right now. Thanks.
Thank you. Senator Klein?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and Senator Bakk. And I just wondered from the department, it seems like a long shot, but do you have any statistics or data on complications or hazards of hot tub facilities within our existing rental properties, hotels, motels, VRBOs? I mean, are you seeing infection rates? Have there been any serious drain complications? Senator Bakk gave us his individual experience of his kids and their friends, and that's convincing. But if we had some statewide data, that could sure guide the committee. Thank you.
Mr. Diaz, if you could help answer that one.
Absolutely. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I don't have that information available to me. I do know that we've had a number of communicable disease outbreaks, including Legionella, both at licensed and unlicensed VRBO-like facilities. And then we do have data that we collect on, entrapments, injuries, and deaths that are associated with pools as well that we can provide to the committee.
Senator Klein, you're done. Okay, thank you. Seeing no further questions, Senator Bakk, if you would like to make some final comments, and then we'll renew your motion. And the motion we'll have before us now will be that we will do pass it and send it general orders. I believe that's your
Yes.
desire, so.
So, Mr. Chairman, let me just say, I probably have, Senator Gazelka might dispute this, but I probably have more resorts in my district than anybody, and maybe, Mr. Chair, you might even dispute that. But members, there used to be over 3,000 mom and pop family resorts in Minnesota. Not everybody's going to be able to afford to own a cabin. And it is the resort industry that provides an opportunity for a family to have their own little cabin and build the kind of experiences that their children will cherish. And those over 3,000 are now 900 and going down. And I just think if we're going to try and preserve this, this small little mom and pop resort industry that is going away big time, we at least ought to give them the opportunity to provide the same kind of amenities that their up-and-coming competitors in the short-term rental market have, or we're just, by default, going to lose even more because they won't have the book of business strong enough to sustain their existence. So this is an awful little bill, but I think long-term, it's pretty darned important to families who want to be able to build that lifetime experience for their kids or for their grandkids. And I appreciate your support, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Bakk. And Senator Abler, if you would renew your motion to pass Senate File 2145 and send it to general orders.
Mr. Chair, as you said.
Okay. Everybody understand the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Senator Bakk, and Ms. Fredrickson for coming all the way down and joining us today.
Thank you for listening to us. Have a good day.
And Mr. Fredrickson, who was observing right behind you, watching every move. Thank you. Welcome, Senator Draheim. You've got Senate File 3258. If you would like to move that to be before the committee.
Yes, I would like to move that we move Senate File 3258 to pass, hopefully, and send it to general orders.
Alrighty, thank you. And would you, I see that you've got an amendment before us, or for our bill. That should be in our packet. Yes, it is. So would you like to move that right away before you introduce the bill?
I'd love to move the A1 amendment to delete a couple little words to avoid another committee stop.
Okay. Yeah, it is an author's amendment. We can pass that right away, but being you started to explain it, do you want to tell everybody what your amendment is doing?
Thank you, Cherokee. We just remove on 5.16 to discourage similar violations, and that'll, if we would leave that in, we would have to go to a committee that most of us don't like to go to.
What we don't do to stay out of judiciary.
Exactly.
So. With that, we will, let's move the A1 amendment. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The amendment is adopted. Senator Draheim, to your bill as amended.
Sure. Thank you, Cherokee and members. We have here, for the most part, a technical with some minor changes to this bill. We do add osteopathic to the language here, and adjust the acupuncture language. So other than that, it is pretty technical and just with some minor tweaks. So I think there's peace in the valley with all the stakeholders. So.
Okay, And I see that you've got beside you Ms. Martinez from the Board of Medical Practice, who will tell us a little bit more about what's all in the bill. So welcome to our committee, and please identify yourself for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am Ruth Martinez. I'm the Executive Director of the Board of Medical Practice. I'd like to thank our authors for bringing the bill forward, and the amendment is a minor amendment, removes some added authority for collection of a civil penalty. But we understood there was some concern about that language, and so we have agreed to take that out with this amendment, which aligns the language with the language that has passed in the House. But the bill, in short, technical changes, we clean up some of the osteopathic physician references in the Medical Practice Act. We have added an examination, the ComVex exam, which is a general purpose examination for applicants coming in from out of state, similar to a special purpose exam already authorized in statute. So this is an equivalent exam. We have done a little bit of cleanup to our Acupuncture Practice Act to remove the requirement for notarization of documents. We have other ways of verifying those documents, and so we don't need that notarization any longer. And we've also done a repeal of a section of rule which was replaced by the Professional Firms Act. And so that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of our language. And I'll take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Abler?
Yeah, thanks, hey, Ms. Martinez, welcome back. And, I mean, the bill seems like it's, fine for what it does. I see you're addressing foreign medical graduates a little bit in there. Does that make it any easier for the whole crew that's been in this country to try to work for us?
Ms.
Mr.
Martinez?
Chair? Senator Abler, yeah, I don't know that the language in this bill has changed much of the language in that section of our statute that licenses foreign medical graduates, but the technical cleanups are essentially across the Practice Act generally and not specific to but I know that's a topic you and I have talked a lot about.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Mr. Chair.
Senator Abler.
The bill just touched on, I know it didn't. I was hoping it would do something because, we talk about workforce and needing more clinicians, and there's a small army of folks who have been working as 20-year surgeons and from various countries, and they have to come here and go through a residency, which just seems like it's just the most bizarre thing. And so I've been trying to work on that. I just wanted to call attention to that. Ms. Martinez, you'll be happy. I don't have my amendment for off-label prescribing by doctors who really are doing a good job, and they've thought of some good ideas. That's maybe a different day. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? More questions? Okay, seeing none. Senator Draheim, if you'd like to give us some final comments, and then you can renew your motion.
Thank you, Chair and members. I just want to thank Senator Wickland for signing on to this bill also. So that's it. So
Okay.
I'd be
All right,
happy
thank you.
to renew my motion that Senate File 3258 be passed as amended and sent to general orders.
Okay. Motion is before us. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you, Senator Draheim. Welcome, Senator Nelson. You've got Senate File 3364. If you would like to move your bill and then to be before us, and then go
Thank
ahead
you.
with your introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I would like to move Senate File 3364. And thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members, for hearing this bill today. This is not exactly a new topic to you. It is a compact. It is the Audiology and Speech Pathology Interstate Compact Bill. As you know, we face a critical shortage of workers all across our state in many areas, including healthcare arenas as well. And the Minnesota ASLP-IC, as it has been shortened to, Audiology and Speech Pathology Interstate Compact, helps address that shortage. This bill will allow interstate compact that facilitates the practice of audiology and speech and language pathology by securing a privilege to practice in a member state or through telehealth. It provides the mechanism to allow audiologists and speech-language pathologists to work in multiple states. Obviously, it ensures the ethical and legal provision of those services, and it reduces regulatory barriers, of course, while protecting the public. And it also establishes consistency in the regulatory requirements around the provisions of those services. And as you would know, it would increase access as well for Minnesotans. And at this moment, I would turn the bill over, if you would like a fiscal update, Mr. Chair, or would you like to go right to the bill walkthrough?
If you've got fiscal information for us,
I'm thinking Mr. Albrecht has that? No?
okay.
I thought we had some, but perhaps not. Okay,
Well, we'll skip that step and go to Mr.
yes.
Griffin.
Yes, Mr. Griffin,
Welcome
for the walkthrough.
to our committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Senator Nelson. We appreciate you bringing this bill forward. My name is Phil Griffin. I'm a lobbyist from Ewald Consulting representing the Minnesota Speech Language Hearing Association. I just want to do a quick walkthrough of the bill, if I may, section by section, to let the committee know what is in the bill. Section 1 allows the release of public and of private confidential information to enhance investigation or enforcement efforts by licensing or law enforcement so that they can comply with Minnesota law. Section 2 is the Interstate Compact itself, which has a series of sections. Section 1 being the purpose of the contacts, Section 2 being definitions. Section 3 outlines the participation requirements for the state compact. Section 4 sets the provisions for individual speech language hearing pathologists or audiologists to get privileges of the compact. Section 5 recognizes the right of an audiologist or speech language pathologist to practice telehealth. Section 6 allows active duty military personnel or their spouse to designate a home state for the purposes of licensure. Section 7 allows remote states to take action against a practitioner for violation within due process. Section 8 establishes the commission and the operations for that compact. Section 9 creates the parameters for a coordinated database and reporting system for the compact. Section 10 gives the commissioners rulemaking processes that they can use, but they can be overruled by member states through statutory action by their legislatures. Section 11 sets out the provisions for oversight, dispute resolution, and enforcement of the compact. Section 12 is the implementation date. Section 13 sets out construction and severability of the compact. Section 15 provides for the binding effect of the compact on other laws. And Section 15 says that we're not subject to Chapter 14 under Minnesota law for background studies, but the commissioner can authorize the Compact Commission to get background studies where they're required. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, that's a quick walkthrough of the bill. We have two witnesses here today, including Mr. Braun, who is the legislative chair of our association, and Mr. Martin Dempsey of the U.S. Department of Defense. They are online with us, and if we could turn to Mr. Braun for his testimony. We are firmly in support of this, and he'll give you his opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Braun. I'm watching for, oh, there he is. This game of Hollywood Squares. I had to hurry up and quick see who's popping up. So welcome to our committee.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Like you said, my name is Jeremy Braun, and I'm a speech language pathologist. I primarily work in the schools in Southeast Minnesota, and I also provide services in the clinic as well. I'm asking for your support of Senate File 3364. This bill would make Minnesota a part of the Interstate Compact for speech language pathologists and audiologists, and would allow our professions to practice across state lines in member states, and also allow telehealth services in member states. The ability to provide services within the compact would increase access for speech language pathology and audiology services in underserved and rural communities. At last count, at least of what I knew, there was close to a 30% shortage of speech language pathologists across the nation. This would also provide for continuity of care for those clients who may spend their winter season in another state, would still like to do check-ins and receive services from their provider. And on a personal note, during the pandemic, the school I work in is on the border of Minnesota and Iowa. And we have students that live in Iowa that come to Minnesota for school. And when schools were all shut down, I checked in with the Iowa Department of Education, and they said, those students are your students, you should serve them. But I'm dual licensed with PELSB and MDH, and when I checked in with the Iowa Department of Health, they said absolutely not, because you don't have our license. So an interstate compact would have been really handy then. Eventually, the governors of both states allowed crossing state lines to provide services, so those kids eventually were able to receive their speech and language services. But with an interstate compact, that would have been taken care of. But yeah, again, I'm just asking you all to support the Senate File 3364, and thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mr. Dempsey. There he is. Welcome to our committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. It's good to be here again. To spare you the details of hearing more about the bill.
Mr. Dempsey, if you could just please identify yourself for the record, and then we'll let you continue.
Yes, sir. I'm Martin Dempsey. I'm a 24-year veteran from the Midwest. I'm a Midwest Regional State Liaison for the Department of Defense, work for the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Military Community and Family Policy. And since the bill's been very well explained, I'll keep this very brief. We like this bill. It does a great job of transitioning our military members and spouses that are moving from state to state. The benefits are endless, the common understanding of standards, the mechanisms for states to share authority and responsibility to oversee occupational practice, the privilege to practice policies allow members in the compact states to work in other compact states, improved methods for allowing endorsements when members need to transfer a license, primarily based on changing legal residence. As our military families move from state to state, obtaining license in order to obtain employment is very important. These compacts will serve to relieve one of the many stressors of the military move. In closing, we appreciate the opportunity to support the licensing compact reflected in Senate File 3364. We again thank you for consideration on this issue, and I stand ready for questions.
Well, thank you. And we also have, I've got listed here, Ms. Kalfas is online, but for questions only maybe, or did you have anything you wanted? Okay, for questions if the need arises. So with that, members, questions or comments for Senator Nelson or our testifiers? Senator Wiklund.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I was wondering, since the compact isn't fully active yet, it sounds like there's a commission that has convened and it's creating or adopting bylaws and rules. Are all of those finalized, those bylaws and rules finalized and reflected in the bill that we have before us today?
Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will turn to the legal counsel from the Council of State Governments to better answer that question for Senator Wiklund.
Ms. Kalfas, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm Nahali Kalfas. I am legal counsel at National Center for Interstate Compacts, which is a center within the Council of State Governments. I'm also the acting interim legal counsel for the commission. And thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and for your consideration. With regard to the immediate question, yes, the commission has had an inaugural meeting, just one. There have been some very skeletal bylaws that have passed that are on the website for all to see. Any of our documents are posted on the website currently. There is a proposed rule, which is a rule on rulemaking, that will be passed hopefully at our next special meeting for that purpose, and also for the purpose of a couple of bylaw amendments. As you can imagine, it's sort of a difficult thing to propose sweeping bylaws, because we want those who are the actual representatives from each member state to take part in that. And it feels very important to make sure that our delegates are actually drafting and helping us continue to develop the bylaws. So they're very skeletal. They are, of course, all reflective of only that which is authorized within the compact itself. Just like with your state licensing boards, we need that direct tie to the authority granted in the enacted legislation. So those can be found on the website. If that's useful, they are a work in progress. We have Rules Committee And we also have Executive Committee and Rules Committee meeting prior to a meeting in May at which at the special meeting, they will pass a couple of bylaw amendments, but they are by no means concluded, by no means finished. I hope that's useful.
Thank you. Senator Wickland?
Thank you. Yes, that's helpful to understand better where things are at in the process. I guess it seems to me that it gives me a little bit of concern about passing a bill when we, and committing to a compact when we don't have a final, things aren't finalized. And then I guess one other question, Senator Nelson, given that there's information in here about, or provisions in the bill that talk about releasing private confidential data and then some other data sharing requirements, are you going to take the bill to the Civil Law Committee so that they can have greater examination of those parts of the bill? Thank you.
Senator Wickland, actually, when we get to the point of making the motion, that's where the next stop for this bill is to civil law and data practices. So it will be going there.
Thank you.
Senator Nelson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just to further maybe respond very briefly, it is important that Minnesota be a part of the final drafting. We are a leader in healthcare arenas, and with our speech audiology, I think it's important that we be part of that as those final drafts go forward. So just as in other compacts, those states that are participating right away get to help with those drafts. So I understand your concern, but I think it's important that Minnesota's leadership be represented as we go forward. And as you heard, we are going to civil law.
Okay. Thank you. Members, any further questions, comments? If not, Senator Nelson, if you would like to make any final comments and then renew your motion, and as we've discussed, this will be passed. If it passes, it goes on to Civil Law and Data Practices Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I encourage a yes vote as this would move on to civil law. Of course, that will increase access both for patients recovering, for students in schools as well. And it's important for Minnesota to be part of this compact, and it will be beneficial for us. So I would renew my motion that Senate File 3364 be recommended to pass and be referred to civil law.
Okay. We have a motion before us. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Nelson. Next up, we have Senate File 3355 brought before us by Senator Abler. Let's see here.
Thanks,
Senator
Mr.
Abler, if
Chairman.
you'd like to move your bill
Yeah, I
to be
would.
before
I
us.
think it's going to the floor, is that right?
You're off. You're going to be going to civil law too.
Oh, cool. I would rather go there anyway. So, Mr. Chair and members, I was stopped at a stop sign one day, and the man in front of me was sitting there. The light was red and changed to green. He sat there, changed to yellow, changed to red, sitting there, changes back to green, changes to yellow, changes to red. Policeman drives up and said, "Sir, are there no colors you like here?" Anyway, so I finally found a compact bill I like, Mr. Chair. This is the one. This is the one here that I think we can all get behind and be enthusiastic about. And if you're here for a while, sometimes you help to create a profession in Minnesota that was really needed. Earlier on, we created a program called Licensed Professional Counselors, which exists still, and they work in schools. But there was a need for a mid-level. We thought that was a mid-level, and we were actually wrong. So it needed a little more teeth behind it, and there was a work group that spent a very long summer that I never attended that sorted out how to upgrade the new licensed professional clinical counselor credential to be one that could be paid by Medicaid. And to be independent in practice and serve folks in many ways. And Anoka District has actually made the LPCCs, that's the acronym, the backbone of their mental health programs at the schools. And we just always wish we could find more, but they have been amazing in filling the gap to a very accessible, a really high quality method. And so it is actually with a great deal of personal pleasure and just happy for the profession that I get to carry the bill to take them to the next step. And so, Mr. Chair, I don't know why the room is not filled with people to celebrate this moment, but I'm sure many are watching at home because this is, in fact, a very good day. So with all that, I'll turn it to my testifier, and she can offer you the nuts and bolts of the bill.
Thank you, Senator Abler. Welcome to our committee, Ms. Koch, and please identify yourself, and then you can proceed with your testimony.
Absolutely. Well, my name is Jillian Cook, and I am a licensed professional clinical counselor here in the state of Minnesota, or an LPCC. Chair Aki and members of the Senate Health and Human Services Committee, I serve as the president of the Minnesota Counseling Association, which represents the approximately 3,000 LPCCs who work in the state of Minnesota. I'm here to talk about the Counseling Compact Bill, SF 3355, which has currently been enacted in 3 states and is pending legislation in 19 states. The bill is budget neutral and is supported by the Minnesota Board of Behavioral Health and Therapy. Today is a day for Interstate Compact hearings. Professional counselors are currently licensed on a state-by-state basis. While it's important that our profession continue to be regulated, the current licensing system leads to hardships for Minnesota's professional counselors and the clients they serve. As it currently stands, the legislation does not allow professional counselors to see clients who are not physically present in Minnesota at the time of their therapy session. So if a client is on a work trip or visiting loved ones outside of Minnesota, or if a client is attending college or snowbirding in another state, we cannot provide them with therapy until they are physically back in Minnesota. The same is true if a client permanently moves to another state, including folks who are relocated through the military. Similar to the PSYPACT that passed last year in Minnesota for psychologists, the Counseling Compact Bill will allow professional counselors to seek the privilege to practice in the states their clients travel or relocate to, thus fixing this disruption in clients' continuity of care. The recent advent of telehealth allows professional counselors and other mental health care professionals to provide a high quality of mental health treatment to clients across the state. In addition to allowing professional counselors to provide mental health treatment to Minnesotans who are temporarily or permanently located outside of the state, the Counseling Compact Bill will allow professional counselors to provide mental health care to people who live in underserved areas outside of Minnesota, including rural areas. It will also allow professional counselors to provide specialized care, such as for eating disorders, to clients who do not have it available to them in their own states, and will help Minnesotans receive specialized treatment that is not easily accessible to them by location, preventing future mental health emergencies. In summary, passing the Counseling Compact Bill is budget neutral, supported by the Minnesota Board of Behavioral Health and Therapy, and will maintain a high level of regulation and oversight over the counseling profession while increasing access to mental health treatment across Minnesota and the country. Thank you for your time today and for hearing Senate File 3355. I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Questions from members? Senator Wickland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, or Madam Chair, sorry. I didn't see if Senator had to be left. Just curious, if there are states who today, does Minnesota have reciprocity with all of the states that are joining the compact, or I shouldn't say join, but they've enacted legislation to join the compact? I know that reciprocity does exist that people can apply for. Would that be true with those states that have already committed to joining the compact? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you can answer that question, or if there's
happy
somebody
to.
from the board here to answer that question.
Sure. I'm happy to answer that, Senator Wickland. Thank you for your question. So currently, 3 states have passed the compact. It is Georgia, Maryland, and actually Alabama. And we believe Mississippi is right on the verge. There's also 19 states where that legislation is pending. What would happen with this compact is once 10 states have passed it, so Minnesota would be hopefully in that first 10, the compact will then activate. And at that time, then privilege to practice, that process would start to be granted amongst those states. Right now, there is not direct reciprocity between any states, so I actually hold a license in Wisconsin as well to counsel, and in order to do that, I had to go through an independent application process that took multiple months. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Senator Wickland?
Sure. Yeah, I guess I thought I understood that there was a method for gaining reciprocity, and through the board, but.
Sure. You can apply for.
Ms. Cook?
Yeah, pardon me. You can apply for a license by reciprocity, saying I've earned my license in this state, but it is, then you hold a full license in the other state. You must keep up with their licensing requirements and anything else that they require, I suppose. And so it is a much lengthier process, which could lead to disruption in clients' continuity of care. So the goal behind this is that it would be a much more seamless process to have privilege to practice instead of reciprocity.
Senator Wickland?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my question would be if the state has different requirements, for example, for continuing education, would you have concerns about, maybe if Minnesota has certain requirements for that? If we are part of the compact, I'm assuming that people who have the privilege to practice wouldn't be subject to those continuing education requirements. Is that correct? And then if so, do you have concerns about people coming to practice here that, that don't meet what we've decided are the standards for continuing education?
Ms. Cook?
That's a great question. Thank you, Senator Wickland. So something that's really important with this counseling compact bill is that it holds us to the most strict requirements for any state's individual licensing. And so in Minnesota currently, in order to become a professional clinical counselor licensed, one must have 60 credit hours, and the counseling compact upholds that as well. Currently, you must also be from a KCREP accredited university for your graduate studies, and that is upheld as well. So Minnesota has some of the most stringent requirements for professional counselors in the country, which is really important. And this compact actually echoes those. And so that kind of abates any fears I have along those lines. And we do have the full support of the Minnesota Licensing Board, which is the Board of Behavioral Health and Therapy.
Senator Wickland? Other questions from members? And Senator Abler, you mentioned at the beginning that you finally found a compact you could support. Could you detail some of the improvements over the nurse licensure compact that this bill brings forward?
Well, thank you. It may just be the pride of fraternity, Madam Chair. I think the worst that can happen from these folks is they'll talk them to death. So that's. But so, Madam Chair, I think this is Minnesota's led the way on this particular topic, and I don't know if that was a good interaction or not, but and I set myself up for that. But I hope that it seems as though our credentialing is weaving its way into the national standards, which I really like a lot. So maybe that's something. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Cook, if one of your counselors was working with someone with an eating disorder in another state, and there was an RN who was tracking their health, their weight, some of their lab results, et cetera, that nurse right now has to be licensed in another state. This compact would mean you didn't have to have that sort of license. Does it ever happen that a nurse works with one of your counselors?
That's a great question. Thank you, Senator Benson. So eating disorders are not a specialty of mine, and so I would perhaps defer that question to somebody with more specific experience, but I will say the reason I added eating disorders in my testimony today is because I have a colleague who works at the Emily program, and she has spoken to Wisconsin clients who come in for residential treatment when they really need that support. And then when they move to outpatient treatment, they actually go home to Wisconsin, have to drive across the border and do telehealth counseling in Minnesota in their car. So those are the kind of situations we're looking to fix. And my best closest answer for today would be that if somebody needs a nurse continually checking in, they might either have to transfer the nurse portion of care to somebody who holds a license in the state where they live, or perhaps if they're at that level of care, they might still be at the inpatient, unfortunately, at that time.
Thank you, Ms. Koch. Seeing no further questions, Senator Abler renews his motion that Senate File 3355 be passed
be recommended to pass and be sent to the Committee on Civil Law and Data Practices. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Senator Abler, you're on your way. Next on our agenda, Senator Curran, Senate File 3036.
No sign-up sheet for you guys? We're lacking here.
Welcome to the committee, Senator Curran. Would you like to move Senate File 3036? I believe there's an author's amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I'd like to move Senate File 3036, and then I also have an A1 author's amendment, and I'd like to move the A1 author's amendment to Senate File 3036. This is our first step.
Thank you. To the A1 amendment, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Senator Curran, your bill is amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What this bill does is it really is it's a good view when we look about reintegration of workforce for those that are criminally involved or justice involved after they've served their sentence and through rehabilitation. What this does is it really moves the licensure application or takes care of the lack of transparency that is in place today. Makes it difficult for people with criminal records who are rehabilitated and access to jobs and interested employers to hire them. What this bill requires is state agencies and licensing boards to offer a preliminary application process in the licensing so that a person with a criminal record can learn before submitting a complete application for licensure whether their criminal record disqualifies them for a license. There's currently no established process for people to get this kind of decision short of completing an application and or training, somebody who seeks training before they seek it to provide a clear path or notice of a clear path of a license once they so complete training and to make sure there's no disqualifications. The bill requires agencies and boards to issue a decision within 60 days, and the decision would be binding on the boards unless there's subsequent change in the person's criminal record. What it does not do is it does not change the standards in the state law and the agencies and boards who use to determine whether a criminal record can be a disqualifying issue under this bill. They will continue to apply the standards as they always have in the past. Finally, to increase the transparency, the bill requires state agencies and boards to report annually to the Department of Employment and Economic Development the number of people who use this process and how many were found to be ineligible due to criminal conviction. And then, Madam Chair, the amendment, what it does is in the House, they added an amendment to charge a fee for this pre-authorization, and then that pre-authorization amount would be deducted from an actual license application in the future. And with that, Madam Chair, we have a couple testifiers.
Thank you, Senator Curran. First on my list, I have Anna Odegaard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. My name is Anna Odegaard, and I'm the director of the Minnesota Asset Building Coalition. We are a statewide coalition of 135 nonprofit organizations working to reduce barriers to economic mobility. We have been working in partnership with the Justice Action Network, the Institute for Justice, and the Council on State Governments Justice Center to advance this legislation that creates better transparency in the state licensure process, because we believe it benefits both employers seeking licensed employees and individuals seeking that licensure. The Minnesota Asset Building Coalition prioritized this bill because many of our member organizations offer workforce development services, including for individuals working on reintegrating into their communities after incarceration. My colleague, Ken, from Goodwill Easter Seals, which is one of our members, explained to me that because there's no formal process for people to find out if their criminal history would affect their eligibility for a license, instead people rely on rumor. So someone hears from somebody else that somebody got denied a license based on a similar conviction, and as a result, his clients are often reluctant even to try to qualify for some vocational paths that could lead to family-sustaining income, because they can't afford to make that investment in the training and education without knowing whether there's a possibility of licensure at the end. We feel that a straightforward process for people who have a criminal history to find out how their record impacts eligibility for professional licensure benefits businesses that, as we all know, need qualified licensed employees, and supports family stability for those coming out of incarceration, and reduces recidivism. Thank you so much for considering this bill in your committee and for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Ms. Odegaard. Next, I have Megan Forbes from the Institute for Justice. Welcome
Thank you.
to the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. My name is Megan Forbes, and I'm Legislative Counsel at the Institute for Justice. We're a nonprofit law firm that works to protect civil liberties and to reduce barriers to earning a living. We support this bill because it brings much-needed transparency to the state's licensing process. In 2020, our organization released a study of the collateral consequences in licensing for people with criminal records. We studied all 50 states and Washington, D.C. based on 10 different criteria. We studied all 50 states and Washington, D.C. based on 10 different criteria related to the standards and processes that states were using to license people with criminal records. Our report found that Minnesota lagged behind other states when it came to providing legal protections and licensing for returning citizens, and overall lacked due process for people who were involved in this licensing process. This bill addresses that problem. It adopts a process that's been tested and proven to work in other states. 19 states and DC have already enacted this pre-application process, and public records show that people are using the process to pursue stable employment. This bill adopts the best practices that we've seen nationwide and that have been endorsed by the Council of State Governments. These practices have been shown to give people a fair shot in licensing and to also help reduce recidivism. We thank you for your consideration of the bill today, and I'm happy to answer any questions the committee may have.
Seeing none, Senator Klein, and we do have one more testifier. Do you want to, thank you. Melissa Reed from Justice Action Network.
Hi, Melissa.
Welcome to the committee, Ms. Reed.
Good afternoon. Excuse me. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Melissa Reed, and I'm here today on behalf of the Justice Action Network, the nation's largest bipartisan criminal justice reform organization that works throughout the country and in Washington to advance bipartisan reforms that make our criminal justice system fairer, smarter, more efficient, and more effective. The Justice Action Network is pleased to testify in support of Senate File 3036, which establishes a pre-clearance process to aid potential applicants with a criminal history so they may know if they are summarily ineligible for a desired license solely based on this history prior to making substantial educational and entrepreneurial investments. Transparency and clarity regarding the impact of one's criminal history on potential professional paths is critical to Minnesota workers and employers now more than ever. We cannot afford to leave anyone on the bench, particularly those who are proactively seeking access to wealth-building, family-sustaining jobs that often require an occupational license. National estimates find that unlicensed workers earn 10 to 15% lower wages than licensed workers with similar education levels, training, and experience, leading to increased income inequality and reduced socioeconomic mobility. Today, 25 to 30% of workers must have a license or some other permission to work, up from 5% in the 1950s. Recognizing the significant economic and social need to reduce restrictive occupational licensing and increasing transparency, reform in this area has been truly bipartisan, both in the states and at the federal level. Both the Obama and Trump administrations led significant reform initiatives related to occupational licensing, voluntary certifications, cost-benefit of licensing laws, harmonizing regulatory requirements, and interstate portability. Since 2015, 38 states and Washington, D.C. have increased transparency in licensing for individuals with criminal histories. In 19 states and D.C., individuals with criminal histories have a pre-clearance process to apply to state licensors at any time prior to enrolling in required educational or training programs. By enacting this legislation, Minnesota will join other states in establishing an important pre-clearance process that will allow those seeking access to good jobs the information they need to make smart, informed decisions about their educational and employment endeavors. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Questions from members? Senator Klein.
Thank you, Chair Benson and Senator Cran. It looks like a great bill. Thanks for bringing it. It's going to help. I actually had a suggestion for the bill, and I won't offer as an amendment, but something to consider as it goes forward. I like the A1 amendment that sort of you can do a partial fee up front, and then that'll be absorbed in the cost of your eventual fee if you actually fully apply. I wondered if on page 2, line 4, the state licensor may charge a fee provided the fee does not exceed the actual cost to the state licensor processing the application. What if you made that a percentage of the end cost, like does not exceed 50% of the actual cost, does not exceed 25% of the actual cost? So you actually make sure that that initial entry fee is pretty nominal. Just an idea going forward. I'm not going to offer it.
Thank you. You guys good? Senator Curran.
Madam Chair, Senator Klein, I like the suggestion as well. And Madam Chair, we're moving on to jobs. We could do it in jobs, or we could do it right now. I'm open to it. I don't know that anybody here would be opposed. I think it moves towards the entire intent, right? It's a nominal investment up front without the full licensure fee to make sure they have a clear path to the job in the back end. So I see that as a favorable amendment. I'd like to make that, if we can, make an oral amendment. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Klein and Senator Curran. This will impact the fiscal note, which I don't see in front of us. But generally, special revenue fees are generally charged that cover the cost so that we're not transferring general fund money over. So there's a little bit of work to do on the amendment. Doesn't mean it's not a good idea. There's just some work. We might have to put some general fund money in if it's the will of the body to do that. But that's something you can work on between here and your next stop.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll do that.
Anything further from the members? Senator Abler.
Well, thank you. And I think we found something that we all agree on that we want to try to make a difference about. And I don't know if you thought about this to the promoters of this or Senator Curran, but in DHS licensing particularly, sometimes they look at charges, not convictions. And which to me I think is, there's a merit to it, but I think sometimes it's terrible. And sometimes they plea in lieu of or something, and you miss a bad guy or somebody who shouldn't be working. But very often, even just a charge or an arrest is used to deny someone the ability to work. And currently, we have a task force who's working on this background studies, and we have barred many amazing people from working. And so at least this way, well, they wouldn't waste their time and try to get licensed, but it doesn't really get after the real issue. But I appreciate your work on it. But I think you, on the way to the next committee, you might want to talk about the impact of charges, and I don't know if DHS has weighed in on this. Senator Curran, has DHS offered their thoughts about this bill?
Madam Chair.
Senator Curran.
Senator Abler, so far there's been no opposition to it. They've been neutral. I agree.
I was not thinking about opposition, but just technical advice, so it actually does good. So this is set up that based on the charges or based on the convictions, you're good to go, but then, oops, forgot the charges. So I don't know if you want to do that now and listen to what they have to say, but I would suggest that you touch base with them and accept their advice so it actually works. Licensing boards as well, so just advice to a
Madam Chair.
Advice.
Senator Curran.
Madam Chair, Ms. Forbes would like to respond to that.
Ms. Forbes.
Madam Chair and Senator Abler, the bill requires consideration of allegations of alleged misconduct as well as convictions. So it would get to that.
I just want to make sure it actually works in all these. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Senator
and Senator Abler, I agree with you, and I have personal people I know who had their license removed for an accusation without having any proof, charge, conviction, or official due process. So I agree with you, but that's a much larger issue, and that will involve this entire committee and the DHS to be able to resolve that. So this doesn't, what we don't want to do is muddy the waters with this, provide a clear path under the existing rules. And then you and I share the passion of making sure we go down that path, that people have due process in every single one of these areas where licenses is imposed on our citizen, our businesses.
Anything further from members? Senator Curran, to your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think it's the right step forward to make sure that we get it and create a clear path for people who want to re-engage in the workforce. And this does a great job at looking for those that have been criminally or justice involved. And again, it's a good bill for everybody. So with that, Madam Chair, I'd like to move that Senate File 3036 be passed as amended and sent to Jobs and Economic Growth, Finance, and Policy Committee.
And to that motion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Senator Coran. And Ms. Strand, any announcements for the benefit of the committee? Okay. Thank you, members, for your work. Committee will meet again on Wednesday, and with that, we are adjourned.